everyone, and welcome. I'm Caitlin Tucker, CMO at Quantimetric. If you're here, you've probably felt this firsthand. You can measure everything in your digital experience and still wait too long to understand what's actually happening with your customers. Today is about closing that gap. At Quantimetric, we give enterprises the industry's most complete view of their digital experience. Global teams rely on our platform to understand why customer behavior changes and act with the speed and confidence that modern digital business demands. But even with all that visibility, there's still friction between data and understanding. And that's what brings us here. Today, we're showcasing Felix Agentic and the shift it represents. You'll see why it matters and how it works. To get into it, I'll hand it over to our founder and CEO, Mario Chabara.
Thank you, Caitlin, and welcome everyone. As Caitlin just shared, analytics has advanced to help organizations move faster over the years. But the uncomfortable truth is, it's still incredibly hard to understand the digital customer. Let me give you an example. An e-commerce leader recently shared with me that she had received a Saturday alert. Conversion is down. She ignored it. It was the weekend. Sunday morning, the same alert fired again. So she pulled in her team from marketing, merchandising, product, tech, voice of customer, call center. 8 people, 6 hours on a Sunday. They were digging through dashboards, logs, reports, comparing metrics, looking at each of their own tools, trying to find the why. And what did they find? Nothing was broken. They'd simply sold out of their clearance items. The low-cost items were gone, so the conversion rate naturally dipped. The data told them what happened. Getting to the why took 6 hours. And whether it's a false alarm or a real defect, your teams pay the same 6-hour investigation tax. And this is the real problem every day. It's not a data problem. It's a complexity problem. They don't need a weekend escalation. They need a simple answer. It simply required understanding. For years, the digital analytics industry has been focused on democratizing data. We built dashboards, expanded access, but access doesn't create alignment, and alignment doesn't guarantee understanding. Data is a burden you give someone to solve. Understanding is a gift you give someone to take action. So the question is, how do we simplify the way teams move from data to understanding? Today, we are introducing Felix Agentic. Felix leverages a sophisticated contextual architecture made from our first-party data we capture on a website or native app, causal knowledge graphs, and Google's Gemini models. It is one integrated solution embodying an analyst, an agent, and a partner. An analyst that does the work to understand what changed in your experience and why. An agent that continuously monitors your core journeys, pages, and funnels, alerting you of any significant changes and asking the questions about that experience you need to know. It's a partner that aligns teams on one shared answer by understanding the nuances of your unique business. The result is a different pace of work. So instead of asking, what is the conversion rate? You ask the question you actually care about. Are we going to make our sales plan today? Or why are people not able to self-serve and instead calling the call center? And Felix not only gives you the answer, but tells you the why. So how would Felix Agentic change your day-to-day? I'd like to turn to our Chief Product Officer, Jake Canan, to show you how this works in practice. Jake, over to you.
All right, let's see Felix Agentic in action. If this is your first time meeting Quantimetric, I do want you to know what Quantimetric has been helping customers with for so many years. Quantimetric really was designed to help people bridge the gap between what's happening with their digital experiences and why it's happening. And we've done that by essentially capturing everything the user sees, everything they do, and everything that happens to them, and then giving you easy ways to quantify and visualize that so you can get to the bottom of why. Now, as Mario mentioned, Felix Agentic is going to help us do that from here on out as the analyst, the agent, and the partner. let's talk about the analyst. I think about the story that Mario told about the 8 people that lost their Sunday to wire conversions down, and it ended up being a non-issue. And I think, what would I do if I was in their shoes? Now, with Felix Agentic, my analyst, I'll just ask it the question, why are sales down? Now, not that Felix doesn't trust you, but Felix is going to do a quick fact check on if sales are truly down. And then it's going to gather a little bit of facts about the whole situation. From there, it's going to hand off to this thing called the investigation planner. Now, the investigation planner takes your original question, it takes the facts it gathered, and it has access to a team of specialized agents to go drill down and figure out why are sales down. And these agents, you can think of them just like your organization. It could be a marketing agent that looks at campaign performance and promotional performance, referrer traffic. It could be a technical agent or specialist that looks at API health, page performance, errors. There could be merchandising specialists, promotion specialists, you name it, right? Just like your org, drilling down, figuring out why from every angle. And when Felix completes its analysis, and you can see all the specialized agents are completed, we can see that it got right to the bottom of the issue. It is a promotional page where all the items are out of stock. Just like that, our Sunday's saved. Now, the thing I really love about this is it also goes a step further and tells us about the non-issues. So it's great that it pinpointed the issue, but it helps me build a bit more trust when it tells me, hey, we checked the technical stuff too, everything's fine. So that's the analyst. What about the agent? Well, some of you are probably asking, why did I even have to ask the question, why are sales down? Why didn't Felix do that for me proactively and save my Sunday? And that's exactly why we built background agents. Agents do exactly what it sounds like they do. They run in the background, doing the analysis, monitoring, and asking the questions that you care about. Now, I've got my background agent set up here to monitor the key experiences across my entire journey. I've got one for search and browse, which is kind of my top of funnel agent, checking if homepage and PLP and PDP are good. And I've got one here for checkout monitor, checking if the funnel's okay, if payment types are working as expected, shipping selections. I've also got this account management and loyalty one that if we click and expand this last elevated run, it says it found a redeem points issue for our gold tier members on iOS, right? Really kind of weird segment of a segment of a segment that we wouldn't have had our eyes on. Now I'm using it to monitor my experiences, but you could do something just like every Monday, we release a new version of the homepage and I just want to report, is the new content performing as we expected? That's the beauty of background agents. The analyst is really cool. I can go back and forth to the analyst. I can discover, I can explore and ask questions. But the agent, it helps me scale my team to be doing all the analysis we wish we were doing around the clock. That's the analyst and the agent. But Mario said Felix was also a partner. What did he mean? And what would it even mean to be a good partner? Now, I'd love Felix to be able to just answer every question perfectly every single time. And we can teach it to be a great user of Quantimetric, and we can teach it to be an analyst the way we think, but it actually needs to think the way you think. And that's why we made Felix completely transparent and adaptable. Anytime you ask a question of Felix, you can completely audit the responses, and if there's anything that you think needs adjusted to think more like you, you can give it instructions. Let's use an example, right? Let's think about conversion rate. Conversion rate is something that everybody thinks about a little bit different, but it has to get it right the way you think about it every single time. So if we walk through the example, I'll just ask Felix, how is my conversion rate? Now, Felix is just going to go and it's going to make a basic query analytics call. And as I said before, it's completely auditable. So when this comes back, it's going to show me a conversion rate that I don't recognize. I might say, that doesn't really look like my conversion rate. That's okay, because we can actually inspect it, and using natural language, we can see exactly how it was calculated. Here, it was calculated by the converted sessions over sessions. It's not bad, it's just not how I think about it. The way I think about it is converted users over users. So what do? Well, I'll just scroll down and I'll click the add an instruction button here. And then in here, I will say conversion rate is the unique converted users divided by users. Now, I'll review this. It'll extract the important things and entities out of that we'll be using later. And I get to decide if this is something that Felix remembers about me as a user, whether it goes into my team workspace, or if it goes into our entire Quantimetric subscription level. And when we submit that, we can then come back, whether it's in this chat session or a week from now, doesn't matter, and ask it that same question. How is my conversion rate? And we should expect that it uses that instruction. Here we see it came back. I can already see the conversion rate is elevated, so I know it's different. And when we inspect the query, there we see it's now using users rather than sessions. That's why Felix, the partner, is my favorite part. For Felix to be great, it has to be a part of your team. And just like you would expect with a new analyst, it has to learn and grow with you over time. Now, what we've shown you today, Felix the analyst, the agent, and the partner, that's what you should expect from Felix when you first get your hands on it. And it's gonna be great. But we're not stopping there. And I really feel like I need to show you where this is all going. If you think about what Quantum does, right? It's all about signals and understanding. But it's for action. So why would we stop at understanding? So let me give you an example. At Quantimetric, we have this error message that we call the yellow screen of death. It's like your oops or sorry, something went wrong message. And using Quantimetric on Quantimetric, we track every occurrence of this error. Now, we've adopted AI coding technologies just like everybody else, and we would love it if Claude could just go fix all the yellow screens of death. The problem is, Claude doesn't have the signals or the context that led up to the yellow screen of death. So, while we were building Felix Agentic, our engineering team said, why wouldn't we just have Felix as an MCP server in Claude? And we can get Felix with the signals and the context to feed that to Claude, and they'll fix it together, right? So here you can actually see that we're just asking Felix within Claude, hey Felix, go find the top occurrences of our yellow screens of death. When you do that, I need you to watch the session replays for those users it happened to and give us the signals, the context, and the reproduction steps that led up to those yellow screens of death. And with those signals and context, Claude goes and fixes it automatically. Now, we're using it to fix our errors, our yellow screens of death. But you can imagine a lot of other scenarios where it takes action. Think about the story we told earlier, right? The promotion problem. Why would I continue to spend marketing dollars sending people to a site where the promotion products are out of stock? Why wouldn't we just have Felix trigger an action to say, hey, we think you should pause your spending? Or what if we just determined that on the homepage, the 5th or 6th section down the page is way outperforming the 2nd or 3rd? Why not send a signal to the CMS platform or A/B testing platform to say, you should move these around? We are really excited by Felix Agentic. It is the new pace of connecting digital experience understanding to action.
We've covered what Felix Agentic is and how it shows up inside the platform. But whenever something new enters the market, especially in the AI space, the immediate question is, why should I trust it? And what actually makes this different? So I wanted to take a few minutes with Mario to dig into what separates Felix Agentic from everything else that's being labeled agentic right now. Mario, there is a lot of noise in the AI analytics space and a lot of bold claims and a lot of products that are claiming to be agentic. But what does it take for agentic analytics to be truly effective in the enterprise?
As we were building Felix Agentic, we looked at the current state. A lot of vendors are building what I would call co-pilots. And co-pilots are nice. They'll tell you something like, what's my conversion rate? But that's not the real question people have. What people love about Quantum, it's not that we report a metric. It's that we tell you the why. And the way people get to the why today is by orchestrating a bunch of factual queries, assembling dashboards, piecing together charts, slicing and dicing funnels, and then building analysis on top of that. That's what I would call intermediate work. What people expect from agentic AI is, I shouldn't have to do that intermediate work. I shouldn't have to know which sub-questions to ask to get to the real answer. So we asked ourselves, why can't we take what information is needed, assemble the queries, the charts, the tables, and then do the analysis all together. Now, I would tell you that only works if you have a solid foundation, a foundation built on data. And to orchestrate all of that, to find those, what I call death by 1,000 cut scenarios, you need complete experience data. And Felix is built on the most complete experience data set in the industry. We capture over 300 different data types automatically across behavioral, technical, and operational signals. That gives us over 2,700 times more data than traditional analytics tools that rely on tagged events. And without that level of context, you can't reliably answer the question about why. And with that context, you can. I think that's the difference between the Copilot and agentic system.
And when those teams have those questions about their digital experience, they're looking to make a decision about what to do next, right? They're not just looking for a number. So how does Felix connect what it finds to the way that the business truly runs?
If you look at these high-level questions, are we going to hit sales plan? Why are people calling the contact center? We as humans, we break these apart. Are they technical issues? Are there merchandising issues? Are there marketing issues? The end result of all analytics is, what action should I take to improve the business? So the way Felix thinks about these questions is the way your team thinks. We reverse engineer that same process into our agents and sub-agents, giving those sub-agents personalities and perspectives of real team members, like a marketing analyst or a merchandiser, so that you can see how this problem is being tackled just like your team would tackle it.
So teams and especially executives don't just need an answer. They need to be able to trust that accuracy. So how did you think about building trust and traceability into Felix?
If you ask any question, whether it's a human being or agentic AI, you're going to get an answer. And I think what you ask yourself when you get that response is, do I believe it? And that building that foundational trust, I think the first obstacle we had to overcome was an experience that we all have had with AI. You ask it the same question 10 times, and you may get different results. So getting deterministic answers at the enterprise was critical to our success to enable the trust level of autonomous analytics. I mentioned earlier causal knowledge graphs. This is the answer that we came up with. Is how do we orchestrate, in response to any individual type of question, how do we orchestrate the similar queries of information to get to that answer? And I think it brings up the next part, which is, how did you get to the answer? To build that trust, it had to be traceable. The understanding of what data did you use to come to this conclusion, we needed to make that very apparent to the user asking the questions. That builds trust. And the last one was teachable. And this really came about, I think early on in our endeavor was, let's create a platform that can service banks, airlines, telcos, healthcare, obviously travel and hospitality, like all these industries that we serve. How do we build one size fits all? And I think we came to the conclusion it's not possible. Just like a new analyst joins your team, they don't know how your business works. We teach them over time, and they get better, more aligned as part of our organization over time. And we build trust with that individual over time. And Felix is the same way. We've taught Felix how an airline or a bank or a telco, each industry generally thinks about their business. But as every enterprise is unique, we allow teams to actually instruct Felix how their teams think. And so unlike a team member that leaves and takes the knowledge with them, Felix stays with you and gets better with time. For me, it's probably the best part of Felix Agentic. It's really a product that learns and gets better with you.
I agree. I think that's the best part that really matters because, listen, speed without trust creates risk. Trust without speed creates delay. So what's exciting here, I think, is that those two don't have to be in tension with each other. Now, of course, what matters most isn't how we describe it. It's how digital leaders think about applying it in the real world. And we're fortunate to have some amazing customer design partners who helped us develop Felix Agentic. We spoke with early design partners Davide Ialacqua and Giacomo Monti from Vans at our recent user conference.
Now that you guys have had some time with Felix Agentic, I'd be curious to share what's changed in that day-to-day. Yeah, definitely a lot of things changed. My role is changing and will change in the future. From basic tasks like someone is coming at your desk and is asking you, hey, can you tell me how it's performing, how Spain is performing, or how is France performing against other set of countries, and then you want to an answer quickly. Before, I had to go to dashboards because we have a lot of dashboards and we have the data there, but it takes time to go to the dashboards, look for the data. Then at one point you have to consolidate all the data, write a sentence that makes sense, and then send to your colleague, right? Now it's slightly changing. If you have a quick question like that, I can just go to Felix and then I can just do the question, get an answer, double check, and then also send to my colleague. So that it's helped also on simple tasks, but also it's changing the way I work since the early morning. Now it's not always me going into Felix, it's also Felix coming to me. Because you can schedule a prompt, so you have a proactive way of saying just to Felix, every morning, give me a daily business overview email, which is telling me the status of my business based on this criteria. And then I start from that email and I set the priority for the day. Because, for example, I remember once that we had an add to cart error flagged by Felix, and it was extremely difficult for me to actually get aware of that error because it was just on some products and just on some sizes inside those products. When you have 1,400 products, it's quite complicated to find that specific error. So in that case, it was flagging to us. We double checked immediately in the morning. Then we reported to our production support team and they took care of it. So it's already changing also in spotting the errors and finding something in the early stage in the morning without having to wait a couple of hours, look at all the tables and see, or maybe not even finding what you need to find. But also, Felix has been a partner in a lot of things in my work. We are teaching Felix to learn and to analyze data as I do and as I would like Felix to do, which is we have a flow chart in our organization, which is telling you, if this happened, then look at this KPI. If this KPI went up or down, then look something else. So, for example, you realize that the traffic is going down. And traffic is going down could be a lot of things to check. But maybe Felix is already now going straight to search for a marketing campaign, see if that campaign is underperforming, overperforming, and then maybe he's coming back to you and say, okay, I went through all of this data and I found out that this Google campaign is not working as expected. That's why you see that traffic is down compared to yesterday or the baseline, the 3 days before. So I think it's helping a lot now already. And thanks to Agentic, it's even shaping a better future for us.
When you think about rolling out Felix Agentic Advantage, what have been the most important ingredients to build trust and prepare for a broader adoption?
And the first milestone actually before even trust was the belief. Everything started with a real business need that we have already presented, which is obviously we wanted to extend the capacity of the team to gain more depth into our analysis. And our passion at the same time to really explore, work with AI, learn new things and so on, which seems a bit abstract and naive to some extent, but really that was the engine of the second stage, which is building trust, because without that passion and resilience, to build trust, it really takes time. David's time, especially in, as he said, reviewing the prompts, checking the data, going back and forth with the QM team to make sure that we were aligned. Because obviously, when you have a tool like that, and you scale it to the rest of the organization, you want to make sure that is reliable, right? So the investment of time was supported by the passion and the initial business need that we had. But then there's another keyword that you have mentioned, which closes the circle, which is context, of course. And here we go back to the analogy of Phoenix being the junior analyst, right? So what a junior analyst would be at the beginning is bringing evidence in front of you, maybe without a very deep context or without too much awareness around it. And obviously, if we think about how we interact with AI, most of the time, we tend to be very judgmental and to scrutinize the outcome without challenging instead what we provided, what was the prompt, the data set, right? So what we're learning and the attitude that we try to have towards Felix is the same attitude that we would have with a junior analyst, which is you want to give that context to get better responses, better outcome, right? So one thing is just to say, hey, we have a problem, as you said already, like conversion rate is down. Yes, but maybe it's just because the previous day we had a big promotion or a big product drop, which is not on today. So knowing these things obviously would improve and provide like better outcome. So ultimately, we all need to, and what we are experiencing is we really need to hold ourselves accountable for providing the right context, the right data set, the right information, so that we can really have successful outcome. And beyond what Davide showed already, like the flow chart and our reasoning, there's much more enriching the product catalog, for example, or providing context on the commercial calendar, so that by knowing that, Felix can really provide a better output. And this is what we're seeing in a tangible way.
When you can iterate toward the right questions, reduce information loss, and bring leaders closer to the data, you don't just save time, you make better calls for the business. And that is what this is really about.
Now, let's cover what's available as a next step for you. If you're a customer of Quantimetric, talk to your account team about access to Felix Agentic. Everyone else, reach out for a custom demo. We'll tailor it to your specific business questions and team needs. And regardless of where you sit, we'll send a follow-up after this with the on-demand recording and key resources.
Here's what to take with you. The next era of digital analytics is simple. It's not more data, not more dashboards. It's more understanding, shared across the enterprise. It's about moving from a culture of what happened to a culture of we understand. That is Felix Agentic. Thanks again for joining us. If you want to see Felix Agentic applied to your KPIs and your customer journeys, we'd love to show you. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm so excited to partner with you and your organization. Giddy up. Let's go.
That's a wrap.
Wrap it up. If we can't laugh, I'm leaving. Today.